two speakers. Councillor Leppard.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make some comments and give a little bit of brief background regarding the Audit Committee report. Item 4 of the paper states that the key function of the Audit Committee is to scrutinise the annual statement of accounts. And item 29 states that members of the committee should possess a wide range of experience and professional knowledge. Well, clearly the word that is glaringly absent in this regard is relevant. Had they had such attributes, they say they have, they've certainly done a first-class job these past few years in concealing them most expertly. We heard the former portfolio holder for finance telling us how wonderful the accounts were. Well, our unaudited 2018 and 2019 accounts hardly testify to that assertion. For a period of almost 2 years, having unaudited accounts is nothing less than scandalous. And is a clear indictment as to the complete lack of leadership and oversight of this key function by the former portfolio holder and the former administration in general. How do they expect to make serious efforts towards regeneration of the town centre? How do they think these can be undertaken without significant private institutional investment, similar to that undertaken by worthier local authorities? But how can this even be considered when we're unable to provide even the most rudimentary of information in the form of audited accounts? Perhaps, though, this lets Councillor Durkin off the hook for his meagre efforts as head of portfolio for regeneration, leaving the northern half of the town centre looking like a decrepit urban setting for a John le Carrier spy film set behind the former Iron Curtain. What debt management oversight has there been when on page 55 of the annual financial statements for 2019-20 show that we're paying an effective annual rate of interest of around 3.19% on our reported financial liabilities during a time of historically low interest rates? On page 56 of the same accounts, it's actually readily stated that we are paying above market. Does the former portfolio holder not realise that even a modest reduction of just 0.5% per annum would equate to £1.1 million? Just think what we could have been doing with those funds. And did the previous portfolio holder not trouble himself to review two fund investments, each for £2 million, one made in 2015 and the other in 2017-18, which are both below par value as stated in the accounts, meaning that not only have the accounts obtained no return on these investments whatsoever, it has in fact actually lost money. Harlow is not blessed with a plethora of investment properties, but we see that many are left vacant. I will just point out one example at Fisher's Hatch in the next ward, where a shop has been left unoccupied for 30 months. The neighbouring Morrison's inquired to acquire the lease and were told that it cost £30,000. This is a small shop. It was once a hairdresser's. I mean, how many perms are needed to pay for a lease of that size? And that doesn't even include rent and business rates. Who's looking at the market opportunity, the opportunity cost or the market rate? If this were the right price, it would have been rented. It hasn't. So it isn't. Just another example of more waste at the taxpayer's expense. In the meantime, owing to the complete mismanagement, the former administration indulged in the financial profligacy bordering on lunacy by buying residential properties on the open market because they could not build social houses on time. Again, who paid for this? The taxpayer. The former administration should hold their heads in shame for their abysmal performance, their abject negation of responsibility, and dire incompetence. The standard solution to cover this cost of wastage has been consistently to increase council tax. Well, this administration is pledged to cut council tax. We will do it, and
Sorry, Chair, can we just ask what this has got to do
with
with
the
order?
You've had 10 years, give me 2 minutes. Well, this is a private company. The shareholders would have booted you all out unceremoniously long ago. Mercifully and justly, though, the long-suffering voters of Harlow have done just that.
Yeah.
I've finished now.
Are you moving this report?
Sorry?
Are you moving
Yes,
this
I am.
report? Have I got a second that?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Carter, thank you. Councillor Durkin, I think you had joined.
Well, Chair, I know that the councillor is a fairly new councillor, but it's interesting that he uses the opportunity after we've had such a fairly frank.
Can I just interrupt you? We are now past the 2 hour mark for the council meeting. Do you wish to extend it? Is that agreed?
Yes.
Carry on, Councillor Durkin.
Okay, I'll try to be very brief because clearly we all want to go somewhere else. I do recognise that the new councillor is a new councillor, and therefore he has taken this opportunity, even though we've actually had a very professional, robust, and I would say sensible discussion. It's a real shame that he's actually now opened up at this particular issue. I am concerned about the comments that he's made in that speech, because whilst he was critical of the cabinet member and also made direct mention to me, I am concerned about his understanding about the leadership and the management, and therefore the impact and effect of what he said about our well-renowned, well-respected Director of Finance, who has been at all audit meetings, has cleared everything that has been gone and been checked. So are we now saying that the Tory party are now voting a vote of no confidence against our Director of Finance? Equally, he's made mention, and I do hope he will take the opportunity to actually speak with Dan and visit the town centre before he makes such ridiculous comments about the north of the... He knows, Dan knows, we all know, none of that is actually owned by the council, so we can influence, but we can't change. And that is why we introduced a strategic partnership of a number, including Harlow Council, as mentioned, Essex County Council, to lift that opportunity to try to bring more options and more availability to people. So I do wish well for the new councillor as he learns the ropes and the etiquette of this house and this chamber. But please, please, try to speak with some authority and some knowledge and some education before making them spurious allegations against a hard-working, dedicated team that we have in this finance department of Harlow Council. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Carter.
Councillor Carter.
Tom. No. Councillor Schultz.
Thank you, Chair, and it's, I won't keep you long, and I also won't stray into the obscurities of what Councillor Durkin has just done, because I seem to think this is a report about audits, and he accused Councillor Leppard of making spurious claims. I don't think it's spurious, unless I'm very much mistaken, that the 2018-19 accounts of this council remain unaudited. I don't think that is a spurious claim to make. I don't think it's a stupid thing to highlight at all. And if they're not audited, that means the 1920 accounts also aren't audited. So when Councillor Durkin refers to regeneration, and he talks, I would call it an excuse that we don't know much of the town centre, we had 10 years to buy it. The only way we're going to do that is with serious private investment. You would be laughed out of any meeting with a private investor if the first thing they ask you for are your accounts, and you turn up with unaudited accounts. So yet again, it's just more excuse. It's weak, and that's why they lost.
That's why they're voting against the Director of Finance. Shame.
That is absolutely shameful.
Shame.
Can we ensure that nobody attacks any officers
We
who
haven't
missing
brought any
and
officers
able
up.
to answer?
We haven't brought any officers up. The only person that did was Tony.
Councillor Danvers, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I do, Chair. Thank you. Of course, the accounts have been audited. The accounts have been audited for both years. What they haven't been has been signed off. And I think you need to actually know the difference between those. Then it's actually insulting to our officers who are so hard working, who have actually made sure, and if it has escaped some of the councillors over there, something has been going on for the last 18 months that's made life very difficult, both for our finance team and for the external auditors coming in as well. And once again, Chair, are you going to correct somebody who's heckling me or not? Because this is the third time tonight. So, the debt. Yes, the council has debt. It was debt-free 10 years ago. The Tory government actually gave this council over £200 million worth of debt, which is going to take many, many years, and the equivalent of £350 million of this town's money to actually pay back. And as far as housing is concerned, which you've mentioned, where was that money from? It was from council house sales. Council house sales, money taken out of this town and given to the Treasury. Money that is Harlow's money. And that is what is wrong with council house sales. We lose the stock. They go eventually to private hands where people actually have extortionate rents. The whole thing is disgraceful. And I'm just mentioning, if you want to heckle again, I'm just mentioning what was said in debate. And at the end of the day, that £3 million would have cost this authority £12 million to redeem. As it was, we had to actually buy the houses to actually avoid paying back similar amounts to the government. If you don't like the government system, tell them. Stop council house sales. We've lost from 20,000 houses, we now have 9. And what happens to most of those houses? They're in the hands of private landlords. We have multiple occupation. We have people being exploited and paying twice the council rent, although I'm fearful about what the rents will be now you've taken over. Twice the council rents on the private market. So let's see what the future holds. But you will have to grapple with this system and find out and criticise council staff at your peril. They are hard-working people who are actually working their socks off in this last 18 months to do their best by this town.
Thank you, Chair. As much as I appreciate that Councillor Durkin, and I have a huge amount of respect for him, at this moment in time enjoys being the court jester in this chamber. Can I remind him that he has opened Pandora's box by referring to a council officer, which is wholly inappropriate. Now, you're an experienced councillor, and you know the rules that we apply, and we have had a debate where we've had a
Chair, point of order. Can we? Did I name the officer, or did I say the position of the officer?
I think you said the position.
You said the position?
Absolutely. So correct yourself. I have not named a single person in this debate.
Councillor Durkin,
But I'm ashamed that you're doing that.
you mentioned the position and you opened Pandora's box about the separation between officers and councillors in this chamber. And that is a fundamental rule that we all should apply by. So show your experience, Councillor Durkin, and don't do that again.
As I've been named, Chair, I do have the right to reply. Yeah, it is true, actually, to be perfectly honest. Let's be absolutely clear. This debate was instigated by a fairly new councillor who attended a meeting for the first time and picked up a legitimate issue, which I'm not disagreeing with about it, but instead of actually finding out the truth and finding out the evidence, he's tried to somehow use that as some sort of political point-scoring issue. But actually what he has done is to call into question the credibility of our officers that work diligently over this particular issue. I would like him to withdraw that statement, and then that perhaps might settle that matter, because I actually think those people do not deserve to be spoken about like that or treated about that, and I hope the leader will take direct action as a result. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm starting to see the disgusting tactics rolled out by the other side. And Councillor Durkin, I'm starting to lose a great deal of respect that I had for you too. The only people in this chamber tonight that have suggested there is any criticism of officers have been on that side of the chamber. Yeah. Clearly they are rattled, Chair. Yeah. Clearly they are upset. Are they upset about the fact that the accounts have not yet been finalised for audit, and there is no final audit statement on the accounts 4 years ago? That's a fact. Yeah. Are they upset about the fact that they had to send over £3 million back to the government because they didn't spend the money? That's a fact. Are they upset about the fact that we've pointed out they spent £3.5 million of council money building a couple of council houses? that cost over the odds and over the market value, because that's a fact. And Chair, it's a fact they lost the elections because of items just like that. And I do not think it is appropriate for a senior member of the opposition to try and entangle a brand new member on this side of the chamber with clever wordplay around what he might have said or not about officers, because he did not criticise officers. He very clearly, Chair, criticised the previous administration, the previous portfolio holders, and he was right to do so.
Sorry, I do have the right to reply because I was named in that debate. Sorry?
You was after the senior council.
No, in all fairness, I think if we replay it, he said he mentioned my name, so he'd lost respect for me and named me several times. I do have the right to reply. Absolutely. Let's be absolutely clear. Every time you name a member, you do have the right.
What's standing order, Tony?
Sorry, Chair, I'm not sure if you can hear, because I know that, but actually I'm being heckled in a very rude way by other people in this area.
What's standing order, Tony?
Sit down. It's the chairman's discretion, not yours.
So am I allowed to speak or not?
You're allowed to speak.
Okay, are you alright, Michael?
I'm glad you asked him in the end.
No, in all fairness, Michael, that's exactly.
Please, come on, just get on with your point.
Can you get on with it?
No, I would love to, except for the difficulties Councillor Hardware keeps thinking that he's in the chair. All I'm simply saying is it's hand in glove that we work alongside, and if people are criticising, then we've got to know the cause and the consequence of that action. And I was saying I would give the councillor the opportunity to clarify that if he chose to do that. I haven't named anybody, but he has inferred something that others have heard and others are concerned about. And but therefore I did offer him the opportunity. For whatever reason, he's declined that opportunity. And anybody else who mentions me, I will get up and speak as well.
I take it you won't be criticised.
So don't mention me.
I agree with you that we put this item to bed and move on to item. Do we have a vote on this one?
Agree.